Peace and power. Dodge the hijacks. Real spill. Love to y'all, man. Where would we be without each other? Without stepping into reality side by side. The wall of protection is real. It's real. We're talking about lands beyond the pole. We're talking to the tribe, no matter how big of a subject this is when you deal with your orientation. And a lot of people have interest. You know what I'm saying? They come over here with interest. But you know what, man? We do this for the tribe. Because we got a feeling. We got a feeling. Come on. Come on. Don't leave me lonely. Yeah, we got that feeling, man, that this is our earth, and our earth is our turf. As far as it spreads, baby. There's a reason why you keep people this sleep, this confined, this bound. So much bondage. So much energy, man, to keep you from being you. Why do you think that is? Could it be the earth is your turf? And you trying to claim all these lands, and there's so many more lands beyond the pole, man. We're going to get back in that Giannini, man. Love to Dorja Daka. Man, I love this joint, man. I vibe to it, man, all the time. All the time. Matter of fact, man, we're going to do it like this. Love to Dorja Daka, not once but twice, who also dropped this Flat Earth. Other Lands by Wakey Wakey, man. Love to Wakey Wakey, man. Showed his love, man. On some other drop we dropped, man. You know what I'm saying? It's dope to, know it's appreciated. And we all, whether you're working on this side or this side, whether you got the indigenous truth, whether you're working to get this orientation, whatever the case is that you consider your flag, your flag of honor, of truth, just know that the Creator exists. Hawa, our breath, and that we are here. You know what I'm saying? And that we do it for us first, you know what I'm saying? Because we are the sprouting seed. We have to sprout before we can, take care of everything else and everyone else around us. We have to become ourselves. We have to separate. So never take it as anything other than us being tribal. It's a natural thing for us to separate, be tribal, activate. Then we can help the world and help whatever the case is. But without any orientation, we're lost. Without having the drop and knowing who we are, everybody's lost. So support us as we separate. Support us to be the tribe that we are so that we can affect things on a much higher level, man. So that is the design. That is the order. We are the 9. No need to bring hatred into it because we're all you got. So keep giving us love. Keep supporting the drop. Keep supporting J Stu, the crew, and the tribe, and you know what I'm saying? All of us, man, that are just, taking the time out to do this, man. Love to you, man. Everyone taking the time out to get the drop for real time, man. There's plenty of distractions going on, so you made it, man. You made it, man. You made it, dang it. All right. Love to y'all, man. So, Flat Earth, Other Lands, by Wakey Wakey. Let's get this before we get into that Giannini. Worlds Beyond the Poles, man. We're going to dig on this chapter 11. The magnetic respiration of the universe. We're talking about the breath. We're talking about the ha. We're talking about the breath. We're talking about the ha. Oh, yeah. I got a letter from King David, by the way, but I'll share it with y'all, eventually, man. Yeah, man, we're talking about the breath. We're talking about the ha. They say, hey, look, hey is ha, ah, aha. We're talking about the breath. We'll be back in that pic though, man. So, love to Wakey Wakey, love to Dorja Daka. Let's go. Dig on it. Let go.
Hi there. Musings is a sort of mental gymnastics, a yoga for the imagination. It's needed. In the Flat Earth community, there are many who only repeat tangible facts, who only stick to Flat Earth proofs. But there are also some that muse. This is the difference between a scientist and a philosopher, but this sort of chat's for another time. So the Flat Earth community has been engineered in a way so it only talks of enclosed dome or an infinite plane. These are the words used. Nobody is really talking about other lands. My Vedic documentary presented the Vedic scriptures that contain detailed descriptions about the other lands. This documentary stopped two prominent Flat Earth enclosed domers from speaking to me again, but that's also for another time. I've come across some maps that need a further look. Monte Urbano lived from 1544 to 1613. His manuscript map of the world book was published in Milan in 1587 and added to in 1589. We can clearly see other lands at the southern edge. At the centre are the four Bargas Islands, but a unique shade of blue ink seems to have been added on top. Very strange. This blue ink is also evident near Brazil. And was this map tampered with? In other parts of his book, Monte Urbano clearly showed lands at the north, with rivers and mountains. No strange blue ink here. Green forests were presented on these giant bits of land, and yellow deserts. Also mountains. What is going on here? Here he wrote, Terra del Fuego, the land of fire.
Wow. Yeah, I think we saw that on this map that we just pulled up, man. That has the India Superior on it. See if I can surf it up right quick. There we go. Now it's sideways and it's small. Gotta tell you, gotta warn you. But as you can see, this is South America. This is what's called North America. But on this map, very small written right here, it says India Superior. So again, these are the Indias. Priest King of the three Indias. You see El Peru. Alright, so you see Peru. Right under that, I said, what's this land connected to it? I just said this on the last drop, I think. So, you know what I'm saying? Because we said, oh, Antarctica, it's just on the bottom. And like anyone could just come to Antarctica. But there seems to be a piece connected. Like literally you can walk from South America to another land. And that reminds me, man, let's just surf the way. So again, this is called Terrestrial Fuego, or wherever he just said. Fuego, which he said had to do with fire. So the fiery land. Hold up, man. Let's see what he said right quick.
Green forests were presented on these giant bits of land, and yellow deserts. Also mountains. What is going on here? Here he wrote, Terra del Fuego, the land of fire. And in Argentina he wrote, the region of the giants.
Argentina, region of the giants. So you have the Bolivia giant connection, then you have Argentina giant connection. So clearly, when we talk about Joshua and these Canaanites and these giants he was fighting, they're all over the place here. Now, Tierra del Fuego, he just said, land of fire. Then you got the land of giants, Argentina. Now, look what we're looking at. Still talking about South America. And here comes the Hyborian gamer map back. Uh-oh. Yeah, I put it on the sideline for a minute, man. Just, you know, want to make sure it was appreciated before I brought it back, man. All right, again, this is a reality simulation out of Arizona. So is it play? I think not. I mean, they put a lot of work connecting this sort of Pangea situation, this connection that we've seen substantiated lots of times. But the interesting thing is that over here, where you have this so-called Africa, you don't see any of the, lands, and you don't see Egypt, you don't see Zimbabwe and all these, places. But when you scroll over, again, this is back to when things were still connected. So it's saying right here, when we talk about Atlantis being over here, so was Egypt. So was so-called Africa. And that's why these Morocco, Moabites, I keep calling this Northwest Africa, Northwest, or West Africa, or Mexim, you know what I'm saying? Because here you have Kim, you have the land of Kim, Khem, Kemet, Luxor, Neptune, and all these other lands, the haunted pyramids, Sukhmat, and that's over the Kush. This is the land of Kush, Kush, as you can barely see it, where you have that capital city of Meroe, connected to Timbuktu or Timbuktu. So you have Mali and Mansa Musa here. Now you're connecting that to Montezuma and these, gold, kings of gold, this Solomon, these Prester Johns, and all that kind of stuff like that. You got the Amazon right here. And again, you have the Thoth Amon spell barrier. So Thoth was rocking obviously here. This is Atlantis, right? He went from Atlantis, he said, to the land of the hairy barbarians, which was way over here in Barbaria. And that's when he set up all this stuff in the 18th dynasty over there. But it started out, my people, right here, which is what they're digging out the Grand Canyon. That Egypt is right here. You're standing on it. The Black Kingdoms, Black Coast, Amazonia, all right? Horace Butler told you that. Rocks crying out. Now, under all this in South America, it's not really mapped out, but it just says down here, land of no return. So beyond the Thoth spell barrier is the land of no return. Now right on top of that is Zimbabwe. Again, there's no Zimbabwe in this Africa that they're selling you. This seems to be a more recent correlation, because this Zimbabwe is here. Punt, P-U-N-T, is here. Whatever this is, Keshan. Can't really see that one too. Where you got Darfur, Timbuktu. Alright, and then you got the land of no return. So, let's go back to this weird little map I had over here. My little sideways joint. Where it says Terrestrial Fuego. Now, here's where the land of no return will be. So, I guess once you pass some point of no return, according to the Thoth spell barrier, you're going into this hot lands, or the fiery lands, which are near this land of the giants in Argentina situation, is what my man is saying over here. Dorkadaka, wiki wiki. Wakey wakey.
On these giant bits of land. And yellow deserts. Also mountains. What is going on here? Here he wrote, Terra del Fuego, the land of fire.
Land of fire connected to, South America, beyond the land of no return. Now you flip the map, this is going north, not south.
And in Argentina he wrote, the region of the giants. Again we can see mountains and land. This map is by Gennaro Pichicaro from 1597, and this also showed lands in the south. Also it showed some lands in the middle. He labelled this area Circulus Antarcticus and showed strange and wonderful animals. Now maybe exotic animals like...
Notice he's saying Circulus Antarcticus, as if this is a circular wall. Now what's beyond that wall? He said something about this Antarctic is going in a circle, is going in a ice wall.
Like the kangaroo and koala came originally from these other lands. This is a map by Cornelis de Jodi, also from the 1500s. He also showed the Bargus Islands in the north centre. If we zoom in, we can see place names, settlement names, rivers.
So you hear about a lot of movements, man. Go back to the center, do this, do that, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you know, if you get escorted there, cool. You know, right now we don't know who and what is operating, you know what I'm saying? But something is there, something's been, you know, mapped out, you know what I mean? And, you know, what's been preserved there. If it's some type of magnetic mountain, then at some point it was the magnetic tree. And if the tree's been cut down and someone's occupying the mountain, like you see in little animation movies and stuff like that, like Angry Birds, you know, now they're at this magnetic mountain. You know, it's all fallen angel stuff because they're enjoying the mountain being a mountain. You need to meditate on your trees being trees, your mountains being trees. That is your habitat, that is your oxygen, that is your size, that is your health, and that is what's happening.
Surely once explored lands. On this Mercator 1569 world map, it shows lands to the north, with mountains and rivers. Also in the south it shows other lands. And in the corner it also shows these islands at the north.
So you notice these 4 rivers. Now it says, you know, in the south, but maybe this map has the correct orientation. Maybe, you know, it's not the north, but it's the south. So that's interesting, man. But yeah, you know, you see these 4 flowing rivers that match up with scripture. Let's go.
This more famous Mercator map also shows these northern islands, these other lands. And here we can logically see where these most likely are. Probably still there, or under ice due to the flood that was reported around the world. Some Russian dude here says there's a magnetic mountain in the centre. He calls the middle Rupes Nigra, and states that Mercator thought it had magnetic powers. Here are some other maps that also contain these islands at the north. This image is from a Russian fairy tale. And this image, found on a similar Russian website, claims this art depicts ships from Hyperborea in the north. Mythical land. Moving on, Frank Herbert, the author of the cult sci-fi book Dune, was a Freemason, and in his book Dune, which has many esoteric and mythological connotations, he has a flat earth map with many lands.
Many lands.
Anyway, here is some footage from Antarctica.
And you might wonder, what are sand dunes doing in Antarctica? It's not the first
Sand. Let's go.
place in the world that you expect to go to find. Antarctica is the coldest, windiest, and driest continent on Earth. Dry.
We are told these are natural breaks in the ice. It looks kind of man-made to me. Just what are these ravines? Don't look too natural to me. They certainly aren't using these little icebreaker ships to make these gouges, or their science boat. Quick, send a science boat to the ice. So what are they doing down there? What are they researching or doing? There's certainly a bunch of machinery and projects going on. And look who went there recently. Clinton, Prince Harry. What's going on? Now the new Google Earth, if you zoom in to the exact south point on Google Earth, you can see all these strange stripes.
Pay attention.
Obviously these aren't photos or satellite images. This is some CGI'd hash-up. How strange this is. Check this out as well. If you go near the north, to this little island off of Russia, and you can do this on anyone's computer, this is repeatable. Just zoom in above this island, you will come across this stripe.
Wow.
Where you can see sort of ice, mountains.
So in this stripe, you can see ice, you can see mountains, you can see land. It's almost as if they just blued out an entire piece of connected land. Land, water, and ice, Giannini says. The Japanese say there's more land. If you're talking about South America, you come right out of here, you're hitting more land now. You don't see that land that's touching it, right? You don't see this joint right here touching South America, which is interesting, right? So there's land missing in all maps, man. Not everyone's catching all the land, but damn it, there's more land. Alright, this is the land you know. This is the ball you know. But they can't tell you nothing else. They can't talk about this land because all that land does not fit in your ball. Your ball will explode if you put all the land that's really there. So they say, oh man, you're spinning on a ball 26,000 miles in circumference. Yeah, man, you can't change that. Once you have a circumference of your ball, you're limited. And the fact is you're unlimited. Remember, you have to flip everything. They say love. You flip love, it is evil. Much a hop to the tribe, pure water. And you're not on the ball with all this land. With all this land on their map. With all this land masses and passages on their map. Land masses and passages on their map. With more land on their map, Admiral Byrd. Beyond the pole and on either side of the South Pole. That's where Admiral Byrd is finding more land. They're saying he found some land right here. What about that land? What are these stripes indicating? They said over Russia, there's this stripe. You know what I'm saying? You know, leading all the way wherever, man. Over Russia, there's more land. The Barrington Iron Republic, man. We got some of that. We'll get back in it. More land. Second polar ice ring. One ice ring. Two ice ring. One ice ring. This is your ball. Outside of that, more land. Another ice ring. Thoth, the moving island, is what's outside of South America. What does that have anything to do with the island of fire? The fiery Fuego Island? I don't know, but this, you know, again, I don't see anything touching or connecting, but I don't know. Maybe it's a moving island for a reason. Yeah. Moon's name, yeah. All right. That's all they saying. Because we're just talking about the land of no return and the Thoth spell barrier. And oh yeah, Thoth has a spell barrier. A spell barrier. This is South America. This is so-called Africa. They called it a mainland for a reason. Thoth spell barrier. Thoth, the moving island. All over these maps. Different maps. This is an Arizona reality simulation of a time when everything's connected and you have a Thoth spell barrier. This is another simulation of more land and a Thoth, the moving island. Yeah. Bol, Sol, Set, Anubis, and the Ra Summer Gate. This is Hijack 101. The hijacks are having a great time doing things on other lands. Let's go.
And forests within this stripe. And it's like they CGI'd over the top of it with some blue. And then here's another stripe. There becomes two stripes for a while.
Wow.
And you can follow this for miles. It actually points directly towards the north centre. I'm just waiting for it to load a bit here. It doesn't go all the way to the North Pole. It actually stops a little bit short. But it looks like there's some high altitude imagery that they don't want us to know about. What is going on?
More land.
This is the northeast area of Russia. And there the two stripes join up. I don't know what's going on here. This is strange. It's highly likely they are painting over lands.
You check it out. Go on Google Earth.
Here on the new Google Earth, if you go to the north, there's actually no ice there. Actually no ice. They forgot to put the ice in. And here we can see it looks like a monk. There's his sort of face. And his hands praying. And there we can see a sort of snake. Here we go, if we turn it a bit. There we go. Don't know if you can see that. Like a monk praying. If we turn it round, there's like a face. There's the nose. All global nonsense, really. It can go away. Okay, so we have the maps clue. We want to now digress and look at another clue related to there being more land. In this realm we know, the mainstream known Earth, there is a mass amount of antipathy from an elite. They create ill health and make money from it. They create biological killers in humans and make money from it. They put deadly injections into children while lying about what is inside. They kill people and lie about it and make money from it. Cancer is not a disease, but a fungus that thrives in acidic environments.
Acidic. So you have to get this acidic out of your diet.
They lie about what is healthy to eat and drink and make money from it. So with all this wild antipathy, why would we believe these people's microspace cartoons?
The main explanation from mainstream medicine is that disease comes from heredity, something given to you that you cannot change, or from viruses, something you catch from another. When they zoom into viruses, all they show us is microspace CGI. They even link the microspace hoax with the outer space hoax.
Philip Sabatier also tracks viruses by satellite, thanks to the expert eye of Antonio Guel.
Wow.
It's all cartoons. It's a hoax. Through the poisons of GMO pesticide food, refined sugars, vaccines, and body-altering chemicals disguised as medicine, a change occurs in the human body, making the body a petri dish for funguses and for parasites to easily thrive in. And medical illustrators create cartoons out of their own interpretations of what they see.
Some of the important things to think about when you're interpreting data from the microscope is, do you understand your sample well enough to be able to interpret what you're seeing? There's just a lot of information. In fact, you could almost say that you're going to be overwhelmed by information when you get to the ultrastructural level. And unless you really know your sample well, then this information could actually be misleading.
In the shocking book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, written by Weston Price in 1939, Price found that the tribes that haven't been touched by modern man's food were very healthy, had no cavities, had perfect dental arches, and faced nose formation. The moment modern food, such as processed flour and sugars, touched these tribes, cavities, disease, and obvious DNA changes occurred. such as teeth crowding in the first generation of babies born under the new food.
So they got indigenous tribes, you know what I'm saying? No fluoride and chemicals and all the process and all the bullshit and all the acid and all the poison, man. It's really just a sorcery poison game, and they know it. That's why they own these biggest companies and they pump this shit out. It's like, how can we legalize poison? How can we poison you with a smile on our face while we dance around with a, can of Coke? How can we poison you, give you a Coke and a smile, man? Damn. I mean, shit. These are tribes. Look at these, beautiful people, man. Just doing their thing with their beautiful teeth. Look at them doing their thing. Now what happens?
The moment modern food, such as processed flour and sugars, touched these tribes, cavities, disease, and obvious DNA changes occurred, such as teeth crowding in the first generation of babies born under the new food.
Damn.
Not because of heredity, but because of the food. Our divine blueprint is to have everything fit, feel good, and be fully healthy. The elite put in sugar and flour and other toxins to change and mess up the human race, which is a major lack of compassion. Could it also be possible that on the other lands, where there's no toxic food, there are still amazing, super healthy, super charged up beings?
For us, living parasites within the body are very real. Candida, pinworms, threadworms, roundworms, etc. Foreign waste debris in the body is real. Morgellons is man-made and very real. But diseases and viruses, we've not seen enough actual evidence to show that these are real. So, there are no diseases on flat Earth. But the main point is this. On a spinning ball planet, trillions of miles from anywhere, or in a flat enclosed reality, these levels of antipathy don't really make sense. Okay, you can have a warring faction, greed, and steering mass groups of people, but mass genocide and DNA mutation, killing people for money, this doesn't work as well in an enclosed reality as it does if there are other lands. Let me elaborate a little bit. If there are 20 lands or so, throwing a few billion people to the sword at land C23, for instance, for experiments, seems much more likely. Why would anyone be okay killing billions of people if everyone is in the same realm? This is more of an irrational leap. This crazy level of antipathy works more rationally if the ruling and orders are coming from another land. Why dirty one's own doorstep? This might need some contemplation to fully understand, and it's only conjecture for making a point that's not yet been made. But these crazy levels of antipathy just don't fully work in an enclosed system. Let's digress again and look at the money. Let's follow the missing money. Banks are basically thieves. The bigger the bank, the more theft. We also had missing gold during the 9/11 hoax, and depending on your source, the amount was somewhere between $500 million and even $100 billion. And do you remember some years ago the Pentagon's missing trillions? This 6 trillion was very well reported. There was also the missing 2.3 trillion.
How can we seriously
Pay attention, man.
consider a $50 billion increase in the defense budget when DOD's own auditors say the department cannot account for $2.3 trillion in transactions in 1 year alone?
I doubt, to be honest, that people inside the department are going to be capable of sorting this out. I have a feeling that...
How do you lose trillions of dollars? You don't. It's impossible, man. You just say, I don't know shit about it. And it goes over because those that are on the other lands are telling you to shut the hell up about it. Look at their faces and listen to their responses.
It's going to take some folks from outside to come in and look at this and put in place a process that over a period, and I regret to say, but I've seen how long things take. I think it's going to take a period of years to sort it out, and I think it'll probably take the cooperation of the Congress to try to get the system so that you can actually manage the financial aspects of that institution rather than simply report on things that have happened.
It's a terrible record, and it's preposterous that the Defense Department doesn't know what's happened to this money.
There was also the missing $9 trillion.
Well, I have a copy of the Inspector General Act here in front of me, and it says, among other things, that it's your responsibility to conduct and supervise audits and investigations relating to the programs and operations of your agency.
That's correct.
So I'm asking you if your agency has, in fact, according to Bloomberg, extended $9 trillion in credit, which, by the way, works out to $30,000 for every single man, woman, and child in this country. I'd like to know, if you're not responsible for investigating that, who is?
We have responsibility for the Federal Reserve's programs and operations, audits, to conduct audits and investigations in that area. In terms of who's responsible for investigating, would you mind repeating the question one more time?
What have you done to investigate the off-balance sheet transactions conducted by the Federal Reserve, which, according to Bloomberg, now total $9 trillion in the last 8 months?
I'll have to look specifically at that Bloomberg article. I'm not, I don't know if I have actually seen that particular one.
That's not the point. The question is, have you done any investigation or auditing of off-balance sheet transactions conducted by the Federal Reserve?
At this point, we're conducting our lending facility project at a fairly high level and have not gotten to a specific level of detail to really be in a position to respond to your question.
My time is up, but I have to tell you honestly, I am shocked to find out that nobody at the Federal Reserve, including the Inspector General, is keeping track of this.
Yeah, so they just lost $9 trillion. I was down the back of the sofa. Then we have the old Federal Reserve chief not knowing where large lumps of money went.
That helps bring down interest rates in the global market for dollars. And meanwhile, we're not lending to those banks, we're lending to the central bank. The central bank is responsible for repaying us.
So who got the money?
To financial institutions in Europe and other countries.
Which ones?
I don't know.
$500 billion and you don't know who got the money?
But since Obama got in with his Wall Street mates, there was a tight lid put on the Fed and the Pentagon. So nobody knows how much has gone missing in recent years. But I'm pretty sure the trillions are being siphoned away from honest human beings. NASA have a budget of $19.5 billion a year. So let's say only about $50 million is spent on Photoshop, Facebook, YouTube, actors, and fake launches. So that leaves, well, $19.45 billion. Pretty much all of it. And this recent footage from SpaceX could only have cost about $5,000 or so, as they didn't even film the landing. Just check this out and look at the levels of mind control that are going on.
It looks like we may not have a continuous video feed from the drone ship right now. Like we said, this is expected. We don't currently have direct line of sight with that drone ship. We only have a satellite link, and as it gets down kind of close, that Merlin engine can vibrate the satellite link. And sometimes we can lose video. So just stay put here. We're going to let you know.
Zero Hedge said the collective humans and countries are 217 trillion in debt, so I wouldn't get too concerned when the criminal credit card dudes get funky over a few grand. Just want to point out here that 1 billion is 1,000 million, and that 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. This is a serious amount of money. Okay, so let's say the elite have 10 or so trillion stashed. A 500-person elite can only buy so many houses, boats, jets, cars and whores. That would only come to a few 100 billion or so. Let's say a few more 100 billion are going on nano projects, chemtrail projects and Antarctica projects. That still doesn't even cover 1 trillion. So where is this money going? You only need a few billion to look after your offspring, family and legacy for generations. So you can't actually spend those trillions here. It's not possible. So what is happening to it? You couldn't spend it all at the icefall either. These big clues of maps, antipathy and missing trillions lend much support to there being other lands. Trillions can only be spent on one of a few things: colonising other lands, building on other lands, projects on other lands, or it's being harvested by other lands.
Bang. So, all that money missing, you're like, yeah, it's so much money, you just kind of like, let it go. Trillions and tens of trillions and all that shit. But then when you put it together, you say, what would you be doing with that? I mean, you know, however I know it's just paper, whatever the case, right? But, it seems to be a lot of thought moving islands around this son of a gun.
In that, I mean, turning your energy from your work into items and projects that you will never see, far, far away, to a different elite. Sounds pretty crazy, huh? Well, so does a spinning ball in a vacuum. Let's wildly digress again and point out that in our known realm there is a massive restriction of movement, and it's happened so slowly over time that most people don't really think about it or contemplate it. Passports are hard to get for many people, and virtually impossible to get for hundreds of millions of people in, say, Cuba, India, Guatemala. They can also be expensive, and they now even contain RFID tracking microchips. Most nations need temporary visas to visit, requiring much strict paperwork in the application phase, and some nations now demand electronic permits. The new toxic body scanners at airports abuse privacy and also create fungus in the body due to the body scanner's radiation. So why do you think the collective consciousness is being put into a state of movement restriction? Well, if there are other hidden lands, and if it's hard to move about, and travel is insanely regulated and controlled, it's much less likely people will be exploring where they shouldn't. Recent movers lend themselves to other lands too, such as Maze Runner, Maona, and Room. So maybe there are many other lands and realms, and this is just one of them.
Just imagine it. Just imagine it. We're talking about an infinite plane. We're talking about an infinite creator. One thing's going on over here. I mean, are these your stars?
Each is likely to have its own sun, or a reflection stroke prism.
When we get back into this Giannini, he's saying everything's connected, right? Land, water, and ice. You don't see spherical anything. It's connected. It's perspective. It's the way, the light show is connected. But when you get out, everything appears to have its own, like you said, its own sun, its own situation, its own, gaseous, sky gas is what Giannini calls it. It's all connected. I mean, look at, one realm that you're in. I mean, where do they go when they launch off in their little SpaceX and they launch off to outer space? Are they just literally going out of one ice patch to another piece of land, over another ice patch to another piece of land? And of course, we know there's lots of water and stuff and dry areas in between this. This is just, somebody's, out of somebody's head. But yeah, man, we're talking about the ice. This is a Japanese map found in some Japanese cave about 1,000 years ago or so. Second polar ice ring, so you're having more of these, land pockets. Alright, so now you can sort of get a picture. You can apply it when you see this right here. What are we talking about? Couple more minutes.
Output from a single sun we all share. In a way we can't yet comprehend.
Are these your stars?
But in a way where the sun is individualized for each observer. And maybe other lands help to explain the anti-crepuscular rays that on rare occasions can be seen opposite the setting sun. I saw my first anti-crepuscular ray recently, and I was freaking out. Maybe the scores of YouTube channels all screaming it's the Jews, it's the Jesuits, it's the Masons, are each only partly correct. Maybe it's some other group on another land. If we are just on land
Moors on Mars,
C22, on a plane of many lands, it makes it easier to just experiment with it, easier to harvest it. Chemtrails are a massive black project. It must cost them a few billion. What if they are actually blocking the sun to stop the ice melting, to stop us knowing about other lands? Our realm is cyclic, so maybe the sun slowly gets cooler, creating an ice age, and then slowly gets hotter, melting the ice wall, melting the ice that covers land in the north. For me, these falls in the south are not cartoons or CGI, and I don't believe in the UN's version of global warming. So what is going on? Why the old maps? Why the insane levels of antipathy? Why missing trillions of dollars? Why the restriction of movement? Why the chemtrails blocking the sun? Why strangeness in the southern ice area? Maybe, just maybe, other lands answers these relevant questions.
Wow. And when we get to it, and we connect it all, you say, what is our inheritance? What is our promised land? Is our promised land then going to be our promised land now? I mean, didn't the Most High say that this Exodus to come is going to make the other one? You're not even going to remember it in accordance to the scale, the high-tech situation that's coming on and the revelation that's coming on. So where is your promised land? Hey, wakey, man. Y'all go subscribe to Wakey, man. Get some more drop. Doors Jadaka always got the drop. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get some more of that jamming, man. We was just jamming. Pretty dope. Let's get some of that while we get into this G&E, man. Let's get it going. Love to the tribe. Let's back it all the way up. Doors Jadaka. Y'all subscribe. Check them out. Got that 432 drop, man, and orientation drop. I mean, hey, I'll take it. Yeah, man, let's go. Wow. Wow. All right, we're in chapter 11 of Worlds Beyond the Poles. You can dig on it in the library. Let's go. The magnetic respiration of the universe. Let's get it bigger. All right, so areas of the flywheel universe shown in figure 2. Chapter 2 could readily be drawn to the cylindrical. Then every connected land area of the celestial and terrestrial could be undulated through the power of every area's magnetic energy. The undulating would be toward and away from the sun, and the sun would be moving in its unchanging course along the entire universe structure. The sun's perpetual journey along the universe course would be that of a paternal supervision for the universe whole. Hence the Earth's daily movement, so-called. All right, let's keep reading. In conjunction with similar movement of all celestial areas would be toward and away from the sun's path. Such movement would account for day and night. The sun's continuous movement along the universe course would, at one season of the terrestrial year, be toward the terrestrial area. At another period of the year, it would be moving away from terrestrial areas. So the sun has a course, just like the Book of Enoch says. Just like Joshua made the sun stand still, you are not going around it. It has a course around you. Moving toward and away from the terrestrial will be equivalent to the sun moving in the same course, but moving slower in the summer months than in the winter months, and both conditions will be equal to the sun's remaining always on the same course, but dispensing greater solar energy at one season of the year. Either of the three conditions will adequately explain the experienced seasons in the longer and shorter days of our terrestrial year. The same condition would produce the same results for other areas of the universe whole. They too experience long days and short days and seasons, and their periods of night and day vary. This undulating movement of the terrestrial area and all other inseparable areas of the universe whole may be linked or likened to the individual's breathing, wah, or expansion and contraction of the lungs, wah. There are known variations in speed or intensity of individual breathing under normal conditions, and there is at other times an abnormal breathing which may be drastically slower or faster depending upon individual condition. Accordingly, there develops constantly varying speeds of breathing among all the individuals, Earth's individuals at all times. Areas of the universe would also express multiple variations in the speed of their daily undulating movement toward and away from the sun's course in space. The variations in movement of areas of the whole would be consistent with continuous unity of the universe whole. Just flow with it, man. Belly fly. You know what I mean? Back. You know, float on your back. You know what I'm saying? Do a doggy paddle through this, man. Relax. Enjoy it, you know, and just fit it in. Close your eyes and see if you can get your orientation now that we got some. Normal breathing of individuals has a range of from 14 to 24 cycles each minute, whereas under extraordinary conditions, particularly in cardiac and respiratory diseases, the number of breaths or respirations may be increased to 50 or decreased to 8. Therefore, it may be discerned that there exists constant variation of the speed among all terrestrial individuals moving toward the same place, continued living. Each individual of the terrestrial may be considered a distinct area of humanity, and each individual attains the daily and yearly goal with varying speed of movement. All land areas of the universe whole may move with different speeds at different times, and each remain an inseparable part of the connected universe. The terrestrial area's daily lung expansion. Wow. So we're not talking about spinning on a ball. You're talking about just basic tectonic land moving, you know what I'm saying, just on the tectonic level, you know what I mean, you know, like the plates shifting and stuff like that, you know, being, you know, inadequate comparison between literally breathing, like that's the Earth's expansion of the Earth's lungs. So when that daily flow, that regular movement, you know what I'm saying, that comes with just, you know, being on water, is the daily expansion, the daily lung expansion, or partial undulating movement towards the sun's course. Could be of approximately 12 hours duration. The terrestrial daily lung expansion could begin at about 12 o'clock midnight and attain maximum daily expansion at about 12 o'clock noon. So you might have seen, like, you know, people like watching the river, and they'll see the level go up, you know, and then expand back down as if the entire ocean took a, you know, one long breath throughout the day. The maximum expansion would bring the terrestrial to a space location where the sun would apparently be directly overhead. Then for the next 12 hours, there would be earth breath contraction. It would complete the daily undulation, and it would return the earth to its lowest point in space and most remote from the sun's course. This would be the point of approximately 12 o'clock midnight, about the middle of the terrestrial daily lung contraction or movement. From the highest 12 o'clock noon point in space, darkness would begin to envelope terrestrial areas. The approach of darkness would be experienced at some terrestrial points as early as 4 p.m. and at other points as late as 8 p.m., and it would result from the increased distance of such terrestrial points from the sun's course in space. Then the next day's terrestrial breath expansion would bring to some terrestrial points at 6 a.m. the so-called dawn. The light of the dawn would increase until the breath expansion reached its peak at about 12 o'clock noon. The peak of expansion would bring the terrestrial to its highest point in space, where it would receive most of solar energy. Daylight would prevail for part of the period of terrestrial lung contraction as the terrestrial moved away from the highest sun point. It may be seen that each area of the terrestrial reached its high point in space. It would recede with the daily contraction, but another point of the terrestrial whole would take the high point position vacated. Hence, when the Boston, Massachusetts point of the terrestrial was far removed from the high point of its area, daily breath expansion, Hong Kong, China, and other terrestrial areas would be approaching the high point. Some areas of the terrestrial would experience noon, while others were experiencing total darkness. The same condition would apply for all celestial areas of the universe whole. They too would be expanding and contracting in common with all terrestrial areas. Now just dig on that for a second. Dig on, just imagining the earth as a body. You know what I'm saying? Imagining the earth as one body. You fight for these different areas, you fight for these different points, but it's all one body, all one breath, all one ha-wah, one foundation. It's a lot of information. Just we take our time around here, so don't come here for a quick pick. We're vibrating. We always have a flow. Yeah, man. Breathe. So as it is with the individual human body's respiratory variations, the daily expansion and contraction of all areas of the terrestrial and the celestial would correspond. Naturally, the daily respiration of universe areas would be much longer than the human body's respiration, though ever bearing the same relation as inseparable parts of the universe daily undulation in space. Some terrestrial and celestial areas would move towards the sun's course in space at greater speeds than others. That condition would develop variations in time of arrival at the high and low space points, representing complete expansion and complete contraction. The difference in speed of movement would in turn develop different hours and minutes for the various terrestrial and celestial areas to experience the sun as being apparently directly overhead. It would likewise develop for terrestrial and celestial areas of the universe whole variations in midnight. The arrival of terrestrial areas at the lowest space point, most remote from the sun's course, would not occur at the same time. Hence, it can be understood that 12 o'clock noon would not apply to all terrestrial areas, and that would hold regardless of what movement the earth and the sun prescribe. Many terrestrial and celestial areas would factually experience noon at different hours and different minutes of the hours. The theory of globular isolation, the theory of globular isolation, that you're on some isolated ball, makes allowance for such times or such differences in times, but 12 o'clock noon is accepted throughout the terrestrial as a matter of convenience. The following word illustration of the comparative movement to be observed at terrestrial levels seems pertinent and may assist visualization of the daily universal undulation. One can readily visualize a frail craft as it participates in the rolling water motion of a calm lake or river. Visualization of the same craft obliged to participate in the violent wave and upheaving motion of a turbulent body of water will materially assist mental comparison of values. It can be discerned that in the case of turbulent water, The bow of the frail craft may be almost upright in space, while the stern could be on the surface of the water. Thus the craft would be seemingly standing on end, and every other area of the craft hull from bow to stern would occupy a different position in space while retaining unity with the craft. The mental portrait of terrestrial and celestial land areas making a unified daily undulation on the broader ocean of infinite space may be enlarged as follows. Add to that single craft 100 or 1,000 similar craft. Have the bow of one scraping the stern of a connected craft along the entire length of undulating craft comprising the whole. Each craft and every part of the craft would reach its necessary high point or position in the relative space where the undulation prescribed. The highest point to be attained in space away from the water surface would not and need not be the same for all parts of all craft comprising the undulated whole. Each craft and its various parts would in time return to a momentary position of even keel or near even keel on the surface of the water, and any change of speed for the undulation would affect the time spent by various parts of the undulation at low water surface point and the high space point. The highest point to be attained in space away from the water's surface would correspond to the highest point to be attained by certain terrestrial and celestial areas in their daily undulation toward and away from the infinite space path representing the sun's course, and the lowest even keel or near even keel position to be attained by all boat parts would be symbolic of the terrestrial and celestial land areas lowest point of daily undulation toward and away from the sun's course. So this is something you can play back, you can you can visualize, you can just let it just flow, you know what I'm saying? But just each time we get through this, I think we may have covered this chapter before, you might get, a broader connection, a broader perspective of things. Some parts of the combined terrestrial and celestial areas of the universe whole would, like the undulating boats, reach the high space point simultaneously, but never could all parts of the unified terrestrial and celestial daily undulation attain the high point at the same time. The same holds true for the completion of the daily undulation, which brings every area of the universe whole to the lowest point in space away from the sun's course. That point would be midnight, but under no circumstances could it be 12 o'clock midnight for all areas of the combined terrestrial and celestial at the same time. Accordingly, all up movement to the highest or sun's course point in space infinite would represent the daily course from midnight to noon for terrestrial and celestial land areas. The second phase of the daily undulation would be away from the high sun's course point in space toward the lowest point in space. That would be movement from the high noon point to the low midnight point. Time would have no bearing on the situation, though the time of arrival at high point and low point would vary for areas of the undulation. The arrival at high point would be noon for each area, and arrival at low space point would be midnight for that area. The foregoing demonstrates how day and night could be experienced without any necessity for isolating the earth and other realistic land areas of the universe. The universe can survive as a unit, and every land and sky area of the universe can continue to be connected, yet every area of the universe whole can prescribe daily movement away, toward, and away from the sun. In a consideration of the seasons, it is shown that the sun in its yearly course would be directly over some terrestrial and celestial area at certain points when the universe whole was prescribing its undulation toward the sun's course in space. The undulating approach of various universe areas to the sun's course would not imply that the sun was in fact overhead. For the majority of the universe areas, the sun would be anywhere but overhead for the greater part of the year, regardless of the sun's apparent overhead position. Direct relation to the sun and direct relation to the sun's course are quite different conditions. The former provides direct perpendicular benefits from the sun when it is the least distant away from the particular universe area, whereas the latter condition would permit only of the sun's benefit at any angle, and the increase of angle would increase the sun's distance from a particular area. Therefore, the day's length and the seasonal change of areas would be influenced not only during the brief yearly weeks when an area had direct perpendicular relation to the sun in its course. The change would also be felt for a period while the sun in its course was approaching direct perpendicular relation to any area, as well as when the sun was moving on its course away from a particular area. As the sun moved in its course, there would develop for other terrestrial and celestial areas the same seasonal change. It would be experienced as the sun approached a perpendicular relation with such an area, and the change would be most marked when the sun had reached direct perpendicular relation. Then, as the sun continued on its course away from the perpendicular relation with the particular area, there would develop another seasonal change for the particular area. Thus, some terrestrial and celestial area would be entering their summer season, while numerous other terrestrial and celestial area would be entering their winter season. Some areas could be simultaneously experiencing the longest day of summer, while other areas receiving sun benefits at the angle when the sun was most remote from such areas would be experiencing the shortest day of winter. There would thereby result variations in the exact time of direct sun for the different universe areas along the sun's course of inconceivable extent. Such could be the development between the sun and all areas of the universe whole, even while every area of the whole could be seemingly bearing the same daily relation to the sun. However, the seeming condition would develop from each universe area daily movement toward and away from the sun's course. Though a particular area might seem to be approaching the sun could be at its most remote sun course point from the area. The appearance of direct sun could prevail at such a time and place, but the benefits of direct sun relation would be absent. The terrestrial equatorial area and the corresponding celestial equatorial area or torrid zones would result from the fact that such areas would reach the highest point in space on the universal undulation, making for the day and night of all areas. But the torrid zone areas would never reach the lowest point in space most remote from the sun's course, to which temperate zone areas would be obliged to move. Like the undulating boats of the illustration, the torrid zones of the universe would reach only the point of oblige through the function of the universal undulation to reach absolute even keel for areas of the boat, the water surface. Even keel for land areas of the universe, making daily undulation would mean the lowest point of the undulating in space. The daily participation by torrid zone areas in the universal undulation toward and away from the sun's course would be sufficient to ensure day and night change for such areas, but because of the added advantage of their location on the universal undulation, their daily movement or dip away from the sun's course and toward the lowest midnight point in space need not be as sharp as that of other areas, and their speed at such time and place could be increased so that they would get away from the low space faster than temperate zone areas of the terrestrial and celestial do. That feature would provide a time advantage in approaching their daily high point toward the sun's course. Hence, for all torrid zones throughout the universe, there would be shorter nights and greater warmth, and there would not be the marked seasonal changes of temperate zone areas. So again, I know, it seems heavy, but it's not for you. You know what I'm saying? You got to challenge yourself to serve even these waves, that you might say, I got 5% of that. We'll play it back. You might get 7%, 9%, 17%. Keep, digging until you can get more and more through the orientation, even if it seems kind of scientific. All right. But some of it's visual and some of it is just, grasping and just, seeing what they're talking about. So we still got to read this stuff. We still got to see what they're writing, especially those that are really, digging in on an infinite plane scenario and lands beyond a pole. On the other hand, the frigid zones or polar areas of the universe would hold such placement on the universal undulation that they would have to reach the lowest possible space point in the undulating movement of the particular area of the universe. Undulation would be barely perceptible when compared with the movement of other areas. Hence, for half of the year, their movement of ascent in space to the highest point approaching the sun's course would be negligible, and it would result in the 6 months of darkness and near darkness characteristic of frigid zones. During the other 6 months of daylight or approximation thereunto, the same frigid areas, terrestrial and celestial, will hold a relatively stable position toward the highest universe undulation point in space. The position of frigid areas during that period of universal undulation will provide proximity to the sun's course, permitting sunlight to prevail. However, during the period of high space point occupancy, the frigid areas having 6 months daylight will not experience a direct perpendicular relation to the sun in its yearly course. No area of the universe can experience that period of direct sun relation, but the continued 6 months propinquity to the sun's course will be sufficient to provide the condition of enduring daylight. Therefore, the frigid areas of the universe would have sufficient summer angle relation to the sun for a measure of daylight beyond that of other areas. They would be deprived of direct overhead relation to the sun during that period. Hence, they would not be provided the measure of heat lavished upon tropical and temperate areas during a period of the same part of the same period. In other words, as the frigid areas held their highest undulating point or proximity to the sun's course, it would not represent the high space. It would not represent the high space point of temperate or torrid zones. It would permit reception of sufficient sun force to ensure continuing light, but the angle of that reception would prohibit the intensity of heat received by temperate and tropical areas during part of the same period when they were at their highest point of undulation. Hold on, let me get my battery straight. Let me get my battery straight. Make this. Alright, getting ready for our dismount here, so make sure we good, so we can get it right. Get our Nadia Komanichi on, man. So there would be other conditions influencing seasonal changes of the year for terrestrial and celestial areas participating in the perpetual universal undulation toward and away from the sun's course in space infinite. There may well exist a very definite influence that would result from lack of consistency in the sun's dispensation of energy, which produces light and heat, or at least substantially contributes thereunto over terrestrial and celestial land areas. It could be that the sun's dispensation of energy varies from time to time. At times, some areas of the undulating universe whole would be receiving less of solar energy than at other times. Such a condition could develop from the fact that at certain times reached their sun's course point of summer, the sun would be emitting less energy than it did when other areas arrived at corresponding position in space. That factor would offset the benefits such areas would normally receive as a result of their direct relation to the sun and its course. A comparable condition could influence the winter period of various terrestrial and celestial areas. They could be benefited by the sun's increase of energy dispensation, and there would be modification of the winter code of such areas. There is no criterion that dispensation of solar energy does not vary in quantity or in quality, but there is ever indication to sustain the premise of periodic change in the sun's dispensing of energy. Hence, the location of connected universe areas. You just got all those connected planes, those connected areas, connected universe areas on the universal undulation, and their angle of relation to the sun would influence climatic conditions, seasonal change, and the length of days. The speed of movement in attaining and holding high and low space points nearest to and most remote from the sun would likewise contribute to the seasonal change and the length of terrestrial and celestial days, and the periodic difference in the measure of dispensed solar energy would also mirror conditions as an influencing agent. Let's get a couple more pages. Another complicating possibility is that the sun, while making its yearly rounds of the universe, all right, so the sun has its course. Along its course, performs a secondary movement away from and return toward the constructed universe whole. That would make for periodic increase of distance from terrestrial and celestial areas to the sun's course. Hence, some universe areas could be expected to benefit and others to lose benefits by the secondary sun movement changing the sun's course. It would depend on their location in the universe whole. Accordingly, to consider a secondary movement by the sun, the conditions to develop from a difference in the sun's dispensation of energy would be expected to develop even though the energy remained constant at all times and for all areas of the universe whole. That secondary movement would be the equivalent of periodic modification and intensification of energy dispensation. Further, the sun may veer from its course in conjunction with periodic modification of intensification of the solar energy dispense. There is no criterion within the extensive domain of astrophysics and its assumptive mathematical values to deny such possibility. Infinite mathematics may reign supreme in the universe of the mathematician, and they may dictate the function of such universe, but the universe of their application has been proved alien to reality by realistic modern performance. Astrophysics has no formula for the direction or directional activity of cosmic rays within our immediate stratosphere area of infinite space. And since the stratosphere area is only the distance of a few miles journey over the Earth's surface, there certainly cannot be real determination of energy dispensed by the sun at its assumed distance. And if a gauge of the solar energy dispense was to be had, it could have application only to the time of measuring the energy dispensed. It could not gauge the energy dispensed ever over a 12th month period. All right, 12-month period. And the gauge could apply only to the immediate area where measurement was made. By no stretch of the imagination could it be considered to apply to all areas of the universe whole. In view of archaic theories, assume movement of an illusory globe Earth, the illusion of a globe. There is nothing sensational in the possibility here projected that the sun may perform a secondary movement to sustain a postulate which isolates the Earth and disrupts the realistic universe. The Earth is considered to make a primary daily movement on its imaginary axis at a rate of 1,000 miles per hour, and it is assumed to make a secondary movement in its yearly course toward the sun at a rate of 6,000 miles an hour. 6,000 miles an hour, man. You feel that movement? You feel it? Observe the flywheel universe in figure 2. It is stripped of the illusory lens produced curves shown for the inner and outer sky areas of its companion. Figure 1, it conveys how the free sun could veer from a direct space path during its yearly course over the constructed universe whole, and that the periodic departure from course could take it any number of miles away from the created universe. There is no way of illustrating where the temporary sun path would be, but the secondary movement away from the universe would be in a way realized by drawing a line from the illustration stratosphere center toward one looking at the illustration. There would be no purpose in drawing the line from the stratospheric center toward any side of the universe illustration. Therefore, with proper application to the physically connected and continuous universe of figure 2, in which the globular deceptions of figure 1 have been eliminated, one will be able to visualize every land surface area of the universe undulating toward and away from the sun's course in space. The sun's course may be considered to extend through the center of the illustration. From the point where the sun is shown at the top of the flywheel, it would move through the dark stratosphere area of the illustration. It would travel the entire length, and it would return along that length. Regardless of what the sun's precise position may be, every undulating area of the universe whole would retain its relation to and physical continuity with the universe whole and to the universe undulation toward and away from the sun's course. The result would be the same if the sun's placement were in the center of the dark stratosphere area of the illustration, from which point it would complete a yearly circling of the illustrated universe circumference. Regardless of precise sun course, the daily undulation of all universe areas will cause it deceptively to appear that every area was circling around the sun. They're deceiving you that this is the Copernican, we're all going around the sun, right? Deceptively to appear that every area was circling around the sun. Now they teach it to your children, they teach it to you, and you see it in every movie, right? As an isolated unit of the universe whole, the undulation movement of the universe areas will cause the illusion of circling around the sun to persist regardless of what the sun's location in space might be. Apt parallel to that experience illusion of circling around the sun is found in a local condition. One can ride a roller coaster moving with great speed up and down or toward and away from a huge arc light in proximity to the undulations of the roller coaster. Each speedy approach toward the light and departure from the light must create the illusion of movement around the light. Such example is elementary, but it staggers concept to grasp the greater speed of the universe undulation toward and away from the sun arc light with a magnitude beyond concept. In terminating this word portrait of the connected and continuous universe and its motion, it seems fitting to relate that the sun shown in the illustration will be red when observed against the perpetually dark background of the space existing beyond sky areas of the universe. When one observes the sun from within a stratosphere of darkness, it has none of the luminous sunlight quality to be observed from land areas. The sun is just a red disk. The sun is just a red disk when viewed from beyond the blue sky. It's just a red disk. You only see one side of it, right? You only see one side of the moon. So you have two disks. The illumination develops from mixture of cosmic rays with chemical elements of the sky enveloping land areas throughout the constructed universe whole. The result of such mixture produces sunlight and heat on all land under the universal sky. And it is the cosmic ray contact with gaseous sky elements that results in the luminosity of every outer sky surface area to be observed against the dark stratosphere. The same stratosphere darkness prevails over celestial sky areas as is known to prevail over terrestrial sky areas, and unless that darkness did prevail over sky areas everywhere, there would be no art of astronomy. Only the darkness permits detection of skylight. When you go into those mountains, man, you go into your trees, only the darkness, man, you'll be able to see the sky, man. And you'll miss it when you can't see it no more in the cities because of all this light. We now proceed from the flywheel illustration of the universe and its motion to the origin illustration of 1928. Though the first is last in descriptive analysis, there is nevertheless a logical pattern. Presentation of the original illustration permits observation of only a segment of the entire universe embraced by the flywheel illustration. However, it may serve to demonstrate the transcendent values in land areas discovered, in opposition to centuries of scientific deduction denying the land's existence beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of our Earth. In opposition to centuries of scientific deduction denying the truth of the land's existence. Land's existence beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of the Earth. Beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of the Earth. Beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of the Earth. Beyond the North Pole and South Pole points of the Earth. Beyond the land of no return, right? To accomplish the illustration, we must first drop back into space both upper angles of the flywheel at the sun position in figure 2. Both angles will remain attached to the unbroken area of the flywheel circumference, but they will drop back into space enough to permit both to project out of sight beyond the sun's location. The remainder of the flywheel circumference area will then extend in space, a streaming banner universe on the horizon, or on the horizontal. The sun will then be situated over the horizontal universe, and the sun's course in space will be over the universe. Now, the horizontal two-sided banner or plane universe will begin a series of arching at the sun point, and the arching will continue along the entire length of the illustrated universal area that can be held on the page. More of the universe beyond both edges of the page will do the same, but the universe cannot be seen. The series of arching up and down, toward and away from the sun's course above the universe will prescribe an undulation of the universal areas. Every area of the banner universe presented could readily be cylindrical. That contour would in no way interfere with physical continuity of the whole. Moreover, the developments in a world of reality will be the same if the illustrated universe extends beyond the sun and the sun's course is above the undulating universe whole, or if the sun is moved with the unseen area of the universe which comprise the upper right angle of the flywheel. The sun will then be at the head of the universe undulation. It would act as leader or guide for the entire universe structure. So this is when they get, the sun is this, we worship the sun because it's leading, it's the leader, it's the guide. This red disc, right? All right, so we see beyond the barrier, but that's as far as they see, is that this sun is a leader or a guide. Then the sun would not prescribe its yearly course along the universe structure as described in the flywheel illustration. Its course will become the course of the force it dispensed, and that magnetic force will be transmitted along the entire universe structure. Then every sky area of the universe would absorb whatever portion of that perpetually dispensed magnetic force it required. As previously explained, some areas would take less because their condition required less. Other areas would absorb more because their conditions demanded more. Let's get a little bit more. Man, how long is this chapter? Yeah, we got to come back to it if I shall. Yeah, I just lead you to the water, man. But at least we know we were stopping that, man. Oh, man, get into some good stuff here. I kind of want to jump ahead a little bit in the interest of time. I'm going to just get it from right here, 140. It is absurd to attempt calculation of unknown celestial areas of the universe with application of astronomical gauges. However, and without thanks to astronomy, every unknown area of the celestial universe about us is as accurately charted in width as every area of the known terrestrial. Thus, the answer to realistic universe contour previously pointed by the flywheel illustration is again pointed to by the foregoing assertion that the celestial width pattern is shown by terrestrial width determinations. As we return to further description of the illustrative universe, it should be borne in mind that nothing has been said about seeing the width of unknown celestial areas of the universe whole. We will never see the width until we arrive at the particular celestial areas, but we may know the width from a pattern to which we have access. In the case of the illustrated flywheel universe, every angle thereof participated in the universe undulation toward and away from the sun's course in space, or toward and away from the center of the dark stratosphere area of the illustration. All corresponding areas of the horizontal plane universe would prescribe the same movement up and down, or toward and away from the sun's course, which would be above the universe structure. It may be observed that in both cases, the sun's relation to all areas of the universe will remain the same. The visualization from flywheel horizontal plane arrangement of the universe whole in space would in no way alter the sun's course in space with relation to the universe it served. Let's check the situation. In the flywheel universe, the sun's course would be from its depiction location through the center of the dark stratosphere area. When the flywheel outline is terminated and the circumference stretched out to a horizontal line which extends beyond both ends of the page holding the illustration, the sun's course becomes a course above the horizontal plane universe. No matter what words area used to explain the situation, the undeniable fact remains that the sun's course in space is unchanged. In both cases, the sun is above the universe structure. We changed the contour of the universe, but we did nothing to the sun and the sun's course. Though the universe contour may be known, it must ever remain beyond human sight. The realistic pattern of the created universe could not even be seen by an observer beyond the universe, wherever that may be. We who inhabit the terrestrial area of the universe are privileged to theorize and conjecture upon the universe contour in space are, after all, a part of that universe. The patterns we apply to the universe area, but timely stopgaps to explain conditions and events, both factual and seeming, and the patterns imposed by our theorizing and conjecture must be remote from creative reality. Like we still got a long way to go. Let's get the rest of this page right here. In both illustrations of universe contour and movement, each terrestrial and celestial area undulated out in space from the allotted position in the space where it had been created. In doing so, all were ascended towards the sun's course. Then, having reached the peak of each area's daily expansion, they would return through contraction to their original positions in the created universe whole. In such manner, they caused to develop the physical conditions experienced, particularly long days, short days, and seasons, as well as the manifest conditions of day and night. And such conditions experienced at terrestrial level have to be experienced at celestial levels. However, a reasonable explanation of experienced conditions did not demand severance of one area of the universe from its neighboring area, so it's still connected. Nor did the explanation of conditions necessitate acceptance of the illusion that every area of the universe is a globular area. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And it did not require that every celestial area in the terrestrial would be assumed to be isolated in space and hurtling in the mathematical orbit at various fantastic speeds for the different areas. So, hurling in a mathematical orbit in a yearly course toward and away from the sun. And the light of modern discovery, the concept of globular and isolated universe areas is discredited, and the discoveries preclude any possibility that there are areas of the universe whole area circling or ellipsing in space. Hence, the undulating movement of the universe as a connected whole presents a much more reasonable explanation or expression of creative ingenuity, and it fits into the pattern of modern discoveries. If we as insects of the created realistic universe, as grasshoppers, I look down, I stretch out the tent, Shamayim, and as a grasshopper universe demand that it moves, let us assume. So if we as insects of the created realistic universe demand that it moves, if you want this earth to move, let us assume a reasonable movement which affords opportunity to visit other areas of the universe. So any type of breath that's being taken opens up an opportunity to visit other areas of the universe after having conjectured how to achieve the visit for centuries beyond estimate. Man, so we're going to cut it off right there. I know it's getting good. We're at 142. We're going to get to the end of this chapter. Oh, man. We just got to get to 146. Think we can do it, man? Can we get it, man? I know it's getting good. Let's get it, man. Let's go. Let's go. I'm with you, man. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. As previously related, there exists not a single creative manifestation of energy at work where circling or ellipsing actually takes place, though there are examples without number where such circling or ellipsing seem to be performed as a result of the lens function and the ensuing deceptions. The consideration is not to be confused with the mechanics of man, in what a profusion of wheels and globes perform their definite function of circling or revolving. There is no mistaking their movement. It would not be possible for them to move otherwise, but they are far removed from celestial mechanics. The revolving man-made mechanics, expressive of man's mechanical ability, confirm all that has been related concerning the origin of man's globular illusions of the celestial, for it was the circular structure of the human lens which inspired man's construction of corresponding circular instruments, concave lenses, on concave lenses. But the instruments were formed by man to require a circling movement, so they made them specifically for the illusion and no other movement. It was the structural form of the optics lenses which demanded that man view every area of the universe as globular and therefore isolated. Hence, the universe had to appear deceptively to be comprised of many millions of isolated areas. Deceptively appear to be comprised of many millions of isolated areas. Deceptively. Recent discovery confirms that the terrestrial area of the universe whole did not escape the disease of lenses. It's a lens disease, a lens flare. It too appears as many millions of isolated globular bodies adrift in space. God did not fashion it in such a manner. Man was incompetent to fashion it in any manner, but the lens did fashion it in the image and likeness of the lens. Realistic creative expressions of energy conform to the waving and bending motion, and a series of waves would present an undulation. But unfortunately for human progress, the waving and undulating motion presents the illusion of circling when viewed at sufficient distance under certain conditions. There are light waves, heat waves, sound waves, color waves, heart waves, brain waves, and others. There are each and every one realistic manifestations which can be recorded. Some can be seen, others can be only detected by extremely sensitive instruments. Carried to the ultimate, there are spirit waves which, at least at times, are discernible. They can be weighed and recorded, and they can, under appropriate conditions, be seen in transit. Come on. Energy. This has to do with pure energy. Here we go. And its factual expressions in the world of reality. And if one might have conjured the rainbow at the mention of color waves, it should at once be eliminated from the category of pure energy. The rainbow formation is created by the lens expressly for the lens that is observing it. The rainbow, or any tangent of a rainbow, has parallel with the so-called curvatures of the earth, and as this work describes, the earth's curvature must exist for the lens because the lens created the curvature in its own image and likeness. The inclusion of spirit waves and the reference to energy manifestation seems to require some explanation. There exists an eternity of difference in the meaning of the word seeing as it relates to the form of self-hypnosis, as it relates to the visual detection of a spirit in transition or in transit as it departs from the human body. Self-hypnosis represents the customary seeing of spirits. It is the mental projection rather than the visual detection, and the word transit should be qualified to have an application only to the brief interval when the human spirit departs the body. That time just preceding the cessation of all bodily functions which make life as we know it. In fact, it is that spirit departure from the body which brings out or about cessation of living functions. So the spirit keeps your body alive. The energy, the pure force, the ruach. There is a facetious saying that aptly describes the development of what we term death. He gave up the ghost. In giving up the ghost, the spirit departed. In this instant, ghost is synonymous with spirit. However, we're one to recall the spirit. They have seen here, there, and everywhere, and under all manner of conditions. The reasonable conclusion must be that such seeing was a conscious or unconscious projection of the mental image retained of the departed person's mortal body. The imagery would be of the body once leaving. The imagery would be of the body once living. It would not be of the spirit living in that body before the body died and the spirit departed, and the image could be of mother, father, sister, brother, wife, lover, or anyone who was known before he died. So such so-called spirits are seen somewhat on the order of the astronomers seeing rounded bodies circling or ellipsing in space. Such spirits with bodies supplied by the living mind are often seen under condition of emotional strain. Their presence is ordained only by the mind of a living person. It is capable of projecting the body spirit, which is not a spirit, almost anywhere. It is a mortal mind that wills the seeing. That which is seen must be a duplicate of the body image that mind retains of the former living person whose spirit has departed. The spirit of that previously living and known body is no doubt a resident of the unknown spirit domain, and the spirit, because it is a spirit, is without physical characteristics identifying the body in which it formerly abided. The spirit cannot be a spirit and retain mortal features, nor can the spirit have a mortal mind, which was developed to serve the body's needs. The mind remains with the body. It with the body was ordained by the spirit which actuated the cell to build the body. Hence we need not discuss the numerous spirits seen fully attired in the clothing which covered the body where the departed spirit was contained. This does not deny the evidence of spiritual attunement with a departed spirit. That is a very different matter. Under such a condition, the spirit of a living body does in fact attune to a departed spirit. Then the living body strongly feels the presence of the departed spirit as the brain of the living person receives the vibration transmitted by the spirit, the mind is actuated to project the body features and attire of that which the departed spirit represented. Then, much faster than the FBI can function, the mind of the living person exhibits everything the living person once knew about the former living person, which the spirit vibration represents. Thus, though the departing spirit is in fact strongly felt through the spirit contained in the living body, it is the living body's mind that automatically revives the mind's storehouse of photographs of a portrait of the former body that contained the spirit manifested. That is the only portrait the living mind holds. It cannot contain a picture of anything other than the body it once knew as a body, and it has no picture of such body as a spirit. Therefore, the living physical entity, you and I and 100 billion others, may reasonably feel spirit presence without seeing the spirit. But how could one hope to see a spirit in body form, particularly if that body was draped in the clothing of mortal existence, and expect that it could be the spirit? That kind of seeing a spirit expresses a form of self-hypnosis, where, as positive seeing of the luminous flesh of spirit departing the body, just preceding death of the body, represents a visual function like seeing the sun, the light, darkness, and millions of other things and conditions in the world of reality. The spirit is as real as the body. Without it could be no body. It can be seen as spirit. In its departure from the body, it has been weighed as it departed the body, but it is never to be seen as a physical body, nor is the spirit to be seen with features, and certainly not with clothing. Only the body needs features and clothing to progress to what might be considered a more physical realm of energy, where it manifested in and by land and water and mass. There is experienced the regular waving waves of ocean, river, and lakes, and there is also experienced the irregular expressions of tidal wave undulations. The experienced earth tremors are expressions of underground waves of energy. They reach the peak of expression in violently undulating earthquakes and violent and volcano eruptions. On the earth's surface, it is found that gas and smoke clouds billow and roll, but they do not circle. However, the billowing and rolling can deceptively appear to be a circling motion. Lightning bends and chains and zigzags in its course, but it does not circle. And all expressions that man's harnessing and utilizing electricity attest that the motion of electricity is opposed to circling. Where the electric current is seen as light, it vibrates to and from in an undulating manner on the filament which carries it, and the emotion is anything but that of circling, even though the current is captive within the globular area of a light globe. Whereas a true circling and ellipsing motion is prescribed, it is due to and is an attribute to man-made mechanics, and where the mechanics are not man-made, and in the universe about us, man's concept imposes upon non-globular creative reality a false globular outline. There is no disputing that globes and spheres and globular and spherical items exist by the millions, but that they exist only on the Earth's surface where man created them. And there are numerous man-made projects that do prescribe a circular motion. Likewise, there are many man-made objects which, when properly arranged and provided the proper speed, will deceptively appear to be globular areas, a result of the circling motion they prescribe. Yet, when the motion ceases, it will be found that the areas are anything but circular or globular in outline. There is available extensive knowledge concerning lens capriciousness and the illusions known to develop the motion directly at hand on the Earth's surface. Hence, it is most singular that the modern man persist in endowing with reality the unrealistic globular celestial areas, and in granting that the areas are globular. All right. Man must decree that they are isolated. Then, with false globularity and isolation and control of mind, movement detected at celestial level must be circling or ellipsing. It is most extraordinary development that man, after centuries of conjecture concerning the course to Mars, and to all areas of the universe, fear to pursue the course now so clearly defined. In the initial discovery of the land course into celestial, the existence of land beyond the South Pole was established on December 12, 1928, but the course was not then penetrated. In February 1947, the northern pathway into the so-called heavens above was discovered beyond the North Pole, and a meager length of its inestimable extent was penetrated by the U.S. Navy Task Force under command of Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd. However, obsolete theory and the misconception it fostered for 28 years restricted depth penetration of the southern course, and it was not until January 13, 1956 that any real progress was made when the U.S. Naval Air Unit accomplished a flight of 2,300 miles beyond the South Pole point of theory, but such extent is meaningless when it is known that the journey beyond may be continued for hundreds of thousands of miles. Not nearly 10 years have elapsed without the notable explorative purpose over the northern course extending beyond the North Pole point. Of course, it is possible that penetration has been made beyond the 1,700-mile point reached in February 1947, but the accomplishment has been kept a secret. Could it be that the terrestrial man's reticence to continue over northern and southern land areas leading to the celestial is due to the fixation of the overworked shooting up conjecture, shooting up like rockets in a distant yesteryear of 50 years ago? This then little boy seriously asked, how far is the sky? Since then there has been abided the popular thought that the discussion of shooting up in a rocket to reach Mars and to reach other areas of the universe about us, it would seem that at long last, a more reasonable and fruitful manner of procedure might be contemplated, particularly after the modern discovery of direct land routes leading up, quote unquote, from beyond the South Pole and North Pole point. Progress straight ahead from beyond the pole points will never require shooting up or out from terrestrial levels to reach celestial areas. In view of the current trend toward destruction of terrestrial man and his civilization, there is imposed the unpleasant thought, what a pity it would be if man were to destroy his kingdom on earth before adequate preparation has been made for sanctuary on adjoining celestial territory. In the unwelcome persistence of such a thought, there is revived the name of a famous predecessor who dwelt in France. He was known as Jules Verne, and he predicted that the earth would be destroyed by the implement of war, which must burst like a broiler. He also observed that the Americans were good boiler makers. We are good boiler makers, and the instruments of destruction corresponding to a boiler are the fearful atom, hydrogen, and cobalt bombs. But it can be that as man of this terrestrial civilization stands on the threshold of celestial land areas, and when the century's dreams of dreams is about to be realized, wholesale destruction will cancel the dream's fulfillment. Wow. And we made it, man. We'll pick up on chapter 12. Get back to this again, man. The Master Builder, Luminous Sky Prince, man. Wow, love to wiki, man. Doors